And once you do things as opposed to reaction without having any insight to what you're getting yourself into, it can blow up in your face. It happens so often, you dig? So if you want to break it down in fractions, the thoughts have a half. They have the ideas. They have the strategies. They have the plans. But you can't just have the thought. You just can't have rhetoric. You got to have action along with it. They have a half. So as they separate, they cannot do any good. They cannot do justice. But once the half, and the half of thought, of controlled thought, once the half of the controlled action, once they kiss, they become whole. It becomes promising. It becomes protected. It becomes an ongoing endeavor, and it'll be applied with reasoning. So when you have control of action, you acting with fearlessness and not acting wild. Now, let's take the word control out for a minute and talk about action. A lot of times with us who's being African-centered or whatever you want to call yourself about race upliftment, we have a whole lot of ideological talk, a whole lot of intellectualizing, which is good. There's nothing wrong with having good dialogue. There's nothing wrong with having good talks, good conversations. There's nothing wrong with that. But if it's a lack of activity, oh, thank you. Give her a hand. She's got a job. I'm sweating up here though. I'm sweating like real sweat up here though. But anyway, it's good to have intellectualize. It's good to intellectualize, have good words and speeches or intellectualizing can change the world. But when it's lacking the application behind it, when it's lacking the activity behind it, it's what we call rhetoric. Queen Mama Nas teaches us to not follow nobody's rhetoric. Rhetoric, in a negative sense, is a manipulation of the words. You did. It's a manipulation of words, intellectual. You know what I mean? Yeah. All of that, and it's really BS talk that sounds good and sounds very impressive. Yes, I love the Metanet language. It's beautiful. Yes, I love the Kiswahili terms. It's wonderful. But the greatest form of communication is not just the Metanet term or the Metanet term. It's not just the Kiswahili terminology or what's the other language you speak that is? Twa. All these are great languages, but the greatest forms of communication is what? The non-verbal language. What your action is. And that's how you judge somebody's character. When one talk coincides with one's walk, then you're able to judge their character. Is it strong or is it shady? Or is the integrity of, I said honor. Are you able to achieve with integrity, or do you have a shady integrity? So you need both. The control, the action must follow. Now, George James was fond of saying justice was equivalent to control of thought and control of action. Anything and mostly everything that we do here today, we should strive for justice. Now, first of all, what is justice? The righteousness of act and the righteousness of thought. So we must have the actions and the thoughts coincide with each other. Now, justice is not going to be granted. Justice is not going to be given. It's going to be abstracted. It must be taken. We're not necessarily talking about vigilante work. We're talking about being organized. What we're doing right now, this is mobilizing right here. What we're doing right now, we getting people, waking people up. But the key is what you're going to do once you awake. Organization is a key form of having a strong act. Let me give you some remedy. First of all, let me give you some signs to look out for people that might not be so organized. If they're late constantly, that's a sign they might not be organized. I didn't say late. I said constantly late. If they're procrastinators, meaning they say one thing but they don't do it when they say they're going to do it, that's not a good time. That's not a good indication of a person being organized. If they don't keep their word, I think it was the most honorable Elijah Muhammad responded saying that the best characteristic a person to have is that person who's able to keep his or her word. This time, a lot of times, that's all we have is our word. If they're not able to keep their word, they probably are not going to be good at organizing. You got to have discipline if you're going to be organized. If you do not have no discipline, it's like oil and water. You got to take responsibility and prioritize your life in order to be organized. So have a control of action. We must have organization. Not just throw it out the term out there, but really apply organization. Okay, what's the next? Oh, steadfast is a purpose. He equates that, George James, with fortitude. Now, this is a good one right here. I love what Karas do in the morning as far as giving testimony. That's beautiful. But what is the root of the word testimony? Test. You will be tested. Especially what many of us are doing here, going against the grain. But the key is, before it, you must be willing to endure. Willing to endure. Having patience. Now, patience is a Latin word. I do believe it means patie. And patie represents suffering. When you're going on your journey, it's going to be some suffering. It's going to be some pain. But remember those that we called on in the libation. Remember those who made their transition, doing the ma'afa. Don't just let the thoughts wander in your mind. Remember, when you're at your weakest point, when you're down on the bottom, when it feels like the universe has pulled the bottom out, remember that we come from stock that will not die. Remember that we come from stock that cannot be destroyed, not just from your historical perspective, but from your own family DNA. We come from stock that will not be destroyed. It's not just about when times get rough, going to the alcohol, like I used to do. It's not just about going sex, drugs, and other things that can be a deterrent to you once you're able to go through a crisis, going through your downtimes. But once you're able to really have a knowledge of self and know the stock that you come from, and knowing that we are children of family with Hammer, Shaka, and all these other great ancestors that we call on, knowing that we are connected to the pyramid builders, it's not just about going to get a brew, or going to get a blunt, or going to get a sherm, or whatever you want to take to leave reality. Once you really realize who we truly are, you got to dig deep. You got to dig deep. You know, we don't come from stock that gives up. We don't come from a history that throws in the towel. We don't come from a legacy that when white supremacy or any other adversity shows up for the fight, we don't put our tail between our legs and run the other direction, or put our head down on the ground like an ostrich. We meet it head on. And once you're able to analyze and evaluate your shortcuts, or your shortcomings, not failures, you'll be able to come back more bolder, more stronger, and come back with a stronger tenacity. Steadfast meaning sticking with it. Stick it out. Don't give up. And that way you'll be able to build tenacity, and you'll be even stronger and more formidable than before you met or came in contact with the obstacle, hurdle, or task. Steadfast is the purpose. Now, we have a black Mercedes-Benz in the parking lot. Black Mercedes-Benz, and a blue Toyota in the driveway. Alright, so we did control of thought, control of action, steadfast is the purpose. So control of thought is what the power of focus, right? Keep your mind on something that's progressive, seeing how long you go, having to house in your mind throughout your daily affairs. Control of action, what's your act? Act with some sense. Don't act like you're not thinking. And steadfast means stick it out. Don't give up. You did. Don't give in. Once again, something easily said, these days kind of hard to apply. What's next? Identify with a spiritual life or higher idea. Alright, spirituality. Let's talk about that for a minute. Spirituality is really, it can be broken down in many different ways, but it's really a force, whatever name you have for that supreme being, supreme force, that's overtaken the universe, that's been able to create you, me, all of us here today, and we are extensions of that. The supreme force has the blueprint to what our life is going to be. It's up to us to get back, to analyze, and to execute what the blueprint is. Now, spirituality, plugging into your spirituality, is not just, and I underline the word just, because it is important. It's not just sitting there and meditating for an hour. There's a form of spirituality. It's not just being able to be in a trance all day long. Spirituality is the sun and bunny. What does the sun and bunny mean? It represents the greatest good for the greatest number of people. So you need to do great things while you're in this container, in this dimension of life. You did. Now, when you're striving to be like, I'm not saying God and gods, because God and gods is an English translation of Unter and Unter. You know, so I'm going to refer to Unter as the deity, but you can refer to your deity however you like. when you strive to be unter life, it's not just, let me use Jesus as an example. You know, Yeshua. I tell a lot of Christians all the time, it's not just about yelling. It's not just about praising Yeshua. We need to implement his teachings. We need to practice his principles. We need to really become them and really be a true representative of those who we claim or who we give praise to, not just utterly, but with your footsteps. It's about leaving footprints, not buttprints these days. You dig? So, being spiritual is also being able to find your likeness in other religions. Because if you really look at it, religion, when used correctly, can be relinked back to your spirituality and relinked back to truth. And if you look at it back in the historical days after the Ma'afa, most of your revolutionaries, most of your liberators were either Christians or in Islam. You dig? So we can never take its history. We can never take that away from them. But the rise of Kemet is here. But the rise of Yoruba, Akan, all these are different cultures, different religions. But once you're spiritual, you're able to encompass all of that or choose none of that. You dig? It's your own personal preference. So spirituality is finding your likeness in all the religions, all the cultures that's uplifting to your spiritual upliftment. Now dig this though, we're not just no mosque. Thank you. We're not getting no mosque, not getting no church. I'm just saying, me personally, we should, I think it was John Henry Parker said this, you should use your church, your religion as an instrument towards liberation. Which brings me to my next point. Number 5. Evidence of a mission, right? The evidence of having a mission in life. Now, what is your mission? Sorry, brothers in the so-called ghetto, or as Tupac Shakur called the outer city. Every black man can't be in a rap gang. You can't be a football player, basketball player, and now a politician, your boy in office. We have limited ourselves, and above all, we have allowed the oppressors to dictate what type of position and what we're good at. If we are really connected to the pyramid of builders, we can do all things because we are all things. We are descendants of those who have made the first civilization, the first humanity, physics, mathematics. So why are we going to keep our shell or keep our talents shallow in a box? We need to expand on it. You dig what I'm saying? Now, evidence of having a mission in life. That's why I say pursuing your mission is more important than pursuing European or Western education. Now, that's not to say you can't go to these formal educations and get teachings. As long as it keeps you in line with what you was put here to do, with what you're contracted to do. Too many people go to school and they're not living out their passions once they graduate or once they get their degree. They're on what you call a plantation, but a plantation is not necessarily those who work a 9 to 5. You can be out of work and still be on a plantation if you still have a brain stain of Willie Lynchism or white supremacy. You dig what I'm saying? So when you're pursuing your mission, first and foremost, you must understand what your desires are, what you love to do. Let me get some participation real quick. Okay, nerd. What do you like to do, Josh? Josh? You like to draw. Sacred writers. What do you like to do, brother? Alright, so we got reading. And he likes to draw. So if he goes to school, becoming a plumber will not help that brother in pursuing his mission in life. He's going to read. He's into reading. A plumber might be able to help me. Well, actually, no. Plumber might be able to help. He'll be able to utilize plumbing skills. What do you like to read, though, first and foremost? Alright, so you're versatile. I dig that. Alright, the point I'm trying to make is be honest with yourself and what you're good at. Because even though repetition is the mother of learning, if you put all of your energy into something that the Most High did not put you here to do, it'll be a waste of time.